Today and for the following couple of Sundays, we're going to read and reflect on some Bible passages from the Old Testament. And I usually follow the lectionary reading. And today's lectionary reading for the Old Testament is from Habakkuk. And Habakkuk is the prophet. He was a prophet who served around the end of the kingdom of Judah. So when he was working, the northern kingdom of Israel had been destroyed by the Assyrians already. And we can also find some stories about some kings for the kingdom of Judah. And some of the kings were right in the eyes of God, but many of the kings were not. And so because they are not right in God, and because they didn't do the Word of God, and you can find a lot of issues in their own country and in their society, let alone some threats from outside. So that is one of the major issues that the prophets of his day proclaimed to the world and to the people and to the Jewish community. And Jeremiah was a contemporary prophet. And you may remember what Prophet Jeremiah did, and we thought about that a couple of Sundays ago. We may think that if you see the destruction of the northern kingdom of Israel, then probably we may find some lessons. We learn lessons from that tragedy. Indeed, some of the kings had a good lesson, but that is not at all. But most of the kings didn't do like that. So, in that, as a result, and there are some injustice issues, and there is violence and oppression, and there are even some persecutions on the people who love to love God and who love to serve God and who love God's people. So today, in the text, we find some questions that were raised by this prophet Habakkuk. And actually two major questions. And God gave answers to those two questions. And today's text consists of one part is from the first chapter, verses 1 through 4, and the other part comes from the second chapter. In the first chapter, first section is about the first question. And in this question, this prophet asks to God before telling something to the people of God. He is asking a question to God. And, "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not listen?" Do you see the frustration? Do you feel the emotions? And then it's a despair. And this prophet is so desperate. Because he's crying out for help, but it seems somehow that God doesn't listen. Do you have any experience like that? You are in desperate situation and you cry out to God for help, but nothing happens and no changes happens at all. So then we may feel like that, oh, where is God? God may not be listening. We may feel alone and abandoned. And that's how this prophet was feeling. And he continues, or cry to you violence, and you will not save. The violence, it may include some kind of threats from outside of the community, but it is more like the violence and injustice which is going on in their own community. Because the king and all the people in the leadership, they didn't walk in the right path. And if we do not do the right things, and if we do not fear, when we have no fear and reverence for God, then we may now understand what kind of result will come for us. In a society where there is the absence of God, then we can easily find the words like violence, persecution, injustice, chaos, greed. So looking at all this violence, this prophet is crying to God, shouting, violence. Violence is everywhere. But it seems somehow God will not save. Where are you, Lord? And why do you make me see wrongdoings and look at troubles? What the prophet wanted to see is justice and righteous things. But what he sees is all about wrongdoings and troubles. So he clearly sees what kind of result are ahead of him. Destruction and violence after violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. And in this situation, in this tough situation, if you can find some hope, and if you have a strong conviction that God is at work, then regardless of how hard it is and how harsh it is, and how harsh our situation is, we can move on. But when we find no hope and help, then we can't move on. What the prophet sees is the law becomes slack and justice never prevails. The wicked surround the righteous, therefore judgment comes forth perverted. If we do something good and if we are faithful to the law of God, then we expect all the things will go right. But when we see some wrongdoers, some evil people does some wrongdoings, and then they are not. They just rather than perishes and they prosper. Then probably people of God may lose their faith in the law of God. And we read the book of Revelation for morning prayers for the past couple of months. And then at the end time, there's a final, very fierce, severe spiritual warfare. And then in that warfare, then you can all see that all the tragic things that are happening to the humankind. So it's so fearful, and you don't want to read those things. But at some point, in some sentences, we find that there are a group of people who are joyful when they saw God is at work, because they were persecuted and they were oppressed. They have been desperately waiting for that God moment. So for some people, it is the end time, and it is time for destruction. It's a doomsday for them. But for some other people, it's the day of liberation. It's a day of jubilee. It's a day, and then it's a moment of joy. And if you just see one by one and all after another, all the wrongdoers, prosper all the time, and they don't even get the right rewards for their wrongdoings, then probably we may feel depressed. And we may feel frustrated. So that was the feeling that this prophet Habakkuk had. So in this crying out, Habakkuk was asking to God, why are you waiting? What are you waiting? And how long should we wait? And or do you have any plan to help us and save us? Then if you have a divine plan, something like that, then why we still see an evil doings one after another? And then we don't find any proof that you involved in this. And you bring forth the rewards for the wrongdoings. And even the people of righteousness, they are being persecuted. So, this prophet is asking to God, where are you, Lord? And do you plan to save us? And God gives an answer to that question. Of course, I have a plan, and the day of punishment will come. The day is coming. And I prepare a kind of rod or stick with which I can punish for their wrongdoings. And there is some paragraphs about Babylon. And the empire of Babylon was a tool, it's a divine tool to bring justice. And there are some descriptions about how cruel they are. And when they come, and you can see the whole lot terrible things that will be happening in this kingdom of Judah. So, justice is still alive. Justice is not dead. And God has a plan. And that was God's answer to the first question. Do you plan to save us anyway? Yes. And then this prophet was wondering, why then? I understand God has a plan. Then why then Babylonia? Babylon why is that even more wicked nation and country will be used to bring justice to the kingdom of Judah. And I understand, and the prophet saw that some issues and injustice in his own society. But the people of Babylon, they were even worse. Then how can they come and they let them bring justice to this society? And the kingdom of Judah is the people of God anyway. And you, O Lord, do you want let them do this job on us? And that was the second question. And God's answer was that, yes, they are the tools in my hand, and they will bring justice to the kingdom of Judah. But they will be punished according to their own wrongdoings and evil things. So God can use whatever that is needed. But that does not necessarily mean that because the empire of the Babylon was used to bring God's justice, that does not guarantee that they will be safe and they will be okay. Because God will bring justice to what they did as well. So that was the answer to the second question. Okay, it is not just about the punishment for the kingdom of Judah, but the empire of Babylon will receive their own rewards. And the second part of today's text was given to this prophet. There is still a vision for the appointed time. What you are seeing and what you are looking at now is not right. And you feel frustrated at the surroundings and at the situations you are in now. But there is still a vision for the appointed time. God has a plan, and the time has not simply has not come yet. But when the appointed time comes, then God will accomplish all the things. It speaks of the end and does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. Have you ever experience when you wait for someone or wait for something to happen? The moment when you get something, your house, your car, or when you are waiting for someone that you love and you will get married to and then create a family. But all those times when we are waiting, then it's a very challenging moment sometimes, even though there is some joy in it. And whenever I'm thinking of waiting, then I remember the moment when I was on a park near Suksa House. It's before my wedding, and we were dating at the time. And I was in the army, so that sometimes I just came out to see her. And then I had to wait outside for so long because Suk's father had no good experience with Christians, especially Christian pastors. So he was not so excited about this kind of relationship. That was way before I visited and I saw him. And when he saw me, and he said that and after an hour conversation, questions and answers, and he said to his wife, then bring out dinner. That means okay, or something like that. Yeah, that was way before that. So it was kind of an initial stage. And I was outside waiting for Suk to come out. And sometimes it is for an hour, for 2 hours. It is a time for waiting. That's sometimes it's challenging, but it is also a great time. I can wait with joy and with hope. Then sooner or later, she will appear around the corner, and I'm just looking at that corner while waiting. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. Wait for it. When you read the Bible, then you can find a lot of passages that are related to waiting. Wait and wait. It seems to me that the people of faith are those who wait. Wait and wait. If it is just, sometimes when you are in the long line, and you don't like to stay in the line for so long. But Christians are those who wait and wait. Let us just see our church calendar. In 1 month, and we're going to go into another church calendar season with the Advent. And Advent season is the waiting time for Christ baby to come. We wait. And during the Lenten season, especially during the Holy Week, we wait for Easter morning, resurrection. And Christians today, still we are waiting for the coming of the Lord again. We wait and wait again and again. So sometimes we may feel that, it is tearing. But wait for it. Wait for it. Why? Because it will surely come. It will not delay. This is what God said to this prophet. And also, God is saying the same word to us now. If you still have something, and if you feel that it seems to tarry, then God is saying to us, wait for it. Just wait for it. It can be your personal dream and vision and hope. And it can be a ministerial hope and plan and vision. We may need to wait. But one thing is clear and sure, that it will come. Surely it will come. And by the end of today's text, and we find the wonderful passage which is the foundation of our Christian faith, which says, the righteous live by their faith. The righteous live by their faith. In this moment of waiting, what is needed most is faith. If you have no faith, then how can you wait? When I was waiting, then I had a faith and I knew that Suk will be coming. But if I have no faith in that, then how can I wait? So this is a similar passage when we say that hope in the Lord and put your trust in the Lord and have faith in the Lord and rejoice in the Lord. They are all the same words. How can we wait without faith? And how can we wait without hope? How can we rejoice without all these things? So we need to think about this faith again and again. And the appointed time will come. But it does not necessarily mean that we just wait for it, doing nothing. At the beginning of the service today, I shared that there's a tragic event that happened in Korea 24 hours ago. More than 150 people died. It is not a car accident or something, simply because there are too many people in a certain place. Many of the people had died because of their, the stopping of their heartbeat. And then I remember almost 10 years ago, more than 300 students died on the sea. And we're still grieving. And we still have the yellow ribbons around the parking lot. While we are grieving over the loss, but at the same time, we need to do something. The time, it is not natural disaster. 10 years ago and yesterday, it is not about natural disaster. It could be avoided. But there's some other issues, political issue, and there's some background issues. And I need some more time to reflect on, what's behind this. It is not just an accident. But what if Korean people, along with the Korean government, worked together to make the society safer for the people. Then I don't think this kind of things can happen again and again. We didn't even grieve enough. We didn't do anything that helped, and that'll help to prevent this kind of tragic things from happening again. So that's why we see and we hear this news again. The appointed time will come, but not like it while doing nothing here. Probably God may be waiting for God's people to act so that we can work together with one another and with God. We work together to bring safer community and more peaceful community. Then the moment and the time of joy and jubilee will come. We may hear once again God's call to act now. If you like to see more peaceful nation, you work for it. If God does everything and we do nothing, then what do we have? Why then we need to keep our faith? Whether we have faith or not, God will be doing what God wanted to do. We work together. It's not like we have the power and it is not related to God and we'll do it. I'm not saying like that. After finishing and accomplishing all the things, and I'm sure about that, and we'll praise the Lord. And this is what you did, O Lord. But I don't want to be idle. I will wait. I will continue to wait, but doing something. Would you like to go with me? If you don't like to see people you don't want to see people who are starving, who are homeless, then let us do something. Even though it's small, let us just do something. Then, when the appointed time comes, when the Kairos comes, then we will see the glory of God. Amen.